Are you ready? Let's go!
Don't you sometimes just want to talk about everything? You know, there's days when you can just talk about anything. Need to sit back and chat about nothing at all? Nothing But Julie, coming at you with fun and creative topics and interviews.
Did you hear Julie's podcast? She's got the greatest topics.
Come join the chat about everything, anything, and nothing. So unwind and tune in to Nothing But Julie. Great topics and cool interviews with some pretty awesome people. And now, without further delay, here's Nothing But Julie.
Well, hello everyone. It is Julie Schrager, your podcast host of the Nothing But Julie podcast. Thank you so much for joining me today. It's been a bit, I know. If you listened to my previous Monday mission, I explained all about my absence, but I am back, and today's topic is me discussing with you the three voices that we all have in our head, which are the bully, the victim, and the real me. And that is something that I am going to discuss. And this is going to be a smaller podcast because there's just a limited amount of information on these three voices. I could research more and I could give a lot more information, but it really turns out to pretty much be the same in the aftermath. And it's very, it's something that I think we all have. I believe we all have. How many times have you heard a voice inside your head that might say something to you like, I'm not loved, or a bully in your head that might say that you're not good enough, or you can't do that because you won't be successful. See, we've all had that, but we very rarely hear the real me voice, and that's what I'm going to discuss with you today. You've got the bully, you've got the victim, and you've got the real me. Those are three of the primary voices that you have. Does that make sense? So when you have these primary voices, the bully and the victim, let's just say, the question is, how can you take control of these internal voices in your head? I mean, you have to recognize that these voices in our head, they don't always have our best interests at heart. Okay? These voices can keep us down. They can make us feel small. They can fill us with fear. They can prevent us from pursuing things in our life that might fulfill us. Like dreaming. You know, most of us believe that we don't have much control over those voices in our head. There are voices that belittle us, voices that yell at us, insult us, right? That's, all based also on self-esteem. And unlike dreams, we are awake when these voices talk to us. So when do we hear them? Mostly, well, these voices usually come out right before or after an important meeting or presentation event, and they offer unsolicited advice. And showing up right after we failed at something, made a mistake, found ourselves in an embarrassing situation. And in these moments, they love to say, I told you so. But the place where these voices are most vocal is when the day has ended. When we're trying to fall asleep, ladies, and we turn down those lights and the volume in our head, and there they go. Now those voices have our undivided attention because they believe it's the perfect time. And it's very disconcerting, and it's very hard to try and eliminate those voices. We don't always realize it, but we are always the ones that are on trial. Always. But additionally, we sometimes play the role of the prosecutor and the judge and the jury, even the witnesses. And All of them are testifying against you, me, us. But you should never, no matter what's happening in your life, you should never, never, never be against yourself. Instead, you have to learn how to get these voices under control. Don't allow them to attack you in a particular way. Okay? It's not healthy. And it takes practice. But it's like you keep summoning yourself back to the witness stand to testify. And when you practice to becoming an observer of when these voices are taking over the space in your head, you'll get better at lessening these voices. And you'll be able to detach yourself. It's a simple thing, actually. You just have to change the behavior and think of something else. But the beginning is very hard. But your brain will slowly catch on and it'll get easier. Okay? The simple act, believe it or not, of naming these voices like I had named them earlier, helps you process what's happening in your head. You know, like putting each voice in its proper place. So this way you can separate all of these crazy thoughts and voices with real facts. So, like I said, you've got the bully, the victim, and the real me. So you got the victim, and the victim has a way of going through traumatic experiences of, let's say, growing up. You know, like, let's say you believe that you were like the center of the universe and your parents only exist for you. But as you grow up, you realize that you were one of many family members that had needs of your own. So what wound up happening, or what winds up happening, is the realization that the thoughts that you originally had are not what you thought. So now you have to learn how to cope, and you need coping strategies. So these coping strategies are what gets you through those voices at night. Now, the bully. The bully has been with us most of our lives. And they come into your head when, I would say, you were weaned away from your loved ones. And even though they gave you compliments all the time when you were younger, the bully always seemed to be the real truth in your head. Always, always, always. That bully was the one that told you the real truth. That you're really not that beautiful and you're really not that smart. That bully is in your head to remind you that the world is a cruel place. And you need to toughen up. But kind of like the victim, you know, you're always being told in your head you're never going to make it. You can't do that. You're not good enough. But there's such a significant difference between the bully and the victim. But that victim's voice that always needs a mommy or daddy figure, the bully voice can't stand the victim. You know, the victim and the bully both have the aims of telling you that you're not good enough to make it in this world. You know, man up. It's time to grow up, right? That is what is happening. And it's very hard when you have the whiny victim, but then you have the bully. Sometimes the bully isn't bad, but you have to take it at heart. You can't get overly consumed with that voice. So now we have the real me voice. So the real me has you. It is you, not has. It is you. It's always been you, and it'll always be you. But you don't ever see it, and you never listen to it because the real me voice very rarely speaks up. It's not that loud or strong or even confident. And the real me voice usually lets the bully and the victim tell it what to do, interpret what's happening, and describe how you look to others. And the real me voice also lets the victim voice and the bully voice call the shots, or at least influence. Your voice, the real me voice, has hopes and dreams and aspirations, but no one ever sees or cares to see them or ask about them. And the real me voice gets pushed to the back because it's not ready for a fight. It's not ready to fight against the bully and the victim. But the older you get, the more tired you're going to get of the victim and the bully voice. Even though they're there to protect you, when you get to a certain point in your life, you realize that you're not maybe living your life. Instead, you feel like you're living the bully and the victim's life and running away from your own. Because those voices your whole life have shut you down. And if you try to step out on your own, they remind you of what happened the last time. But you start to get tired of it. And sooner or later, the real me voice takes over that bully and victim voice. Now, I'm not saying the bully and victim voice go away 100%, but you become stronger and tougher, and you're able to learn who the real you is and shut down some of those voices. So when you learn how to identify these 3 voices in your head, it's the best thing that could ever happen to you, because it'll allow you to tag your thoughts, and secondly, see through all of the different strategies that those voices would do to control you and keep you down and prevent you from living your life. And once you learn how to identify and name these voices, you'll be able to separate your thoughts into things that you want versus what they want. And you shouldn't let these voices play a specific role in your head. You shouldn't allow them to direct your life. They can provide input, but in a very orderly fashion with a lot of caveats. So there's something called like the stick figure. It's a technique, and it's something that you could keep in your head. It'll keep your head clear if you can visualize your thoughts as 3 simple stick figures. The smallest is the victim. Okay, and okay, wait, let me just think again. Yeah, the figure on the left is the victim. The oversized stick figure all the way to the right is the bully. And the one in the middle, the one trying to stand out, is the real me. Okay, so the victim, the real me in the middle, the bully to the right. And every time a thought would come into your head, or should come into your head, that hurts or makes you feel afraid, attach that voice to one of those stick figures. You're not going to amount to anything. Tag it to the stick figure of the bully in your head. I'm never loved enough. Tag that thought, that voice, to the victim's stick figure. When you do that, it will help you identify the source of the voice. And once you practice these techniques, you can quiet your mind and you can keep those voices at bay and no longer allow them to take over every single night as you try to sleep. But most importantly, don't ever let them put you on trial. Don't let them force you to testify against yourself. You know, like, one of the rules you should have in your life is not to be against yourself. Don't listen to the thoughts or opinions that are there to bring you down. It doesn't mean they're not going to keep trying, of course. Old habits die hard, but those voices, the victim and the bully, yeah, they'll still come around most of the time during stress or humiliation, but you got to, boom, tag them to those stick figures, call them out by their name. It doesn't mean that they're going to go away entirely, but it helps to put them in their place. This way you're exposing their motives, and it'll make you a better you. The real me will become your favorite voice to listen to. And little by little, the victim and the bully voice won't interfere. And like I said, it's going to take time for the real me to come out and speak up. But the more you listen to it, the more rewarding your life will become. So I hope you really like this podcast. Feel free to reach out to me and DM me again. I really enjoy reading the DMs and the opinions and the topic requests that you have, and especially when you review my podcast and you rate it. It makes me realize that, I have people out there that really care about the topics I talk about. And feel free to check out my Instagram and Facebook at Nothing But Julie, also TikTok at Nothing But Julie. And you enjoy the rest of your week. Bye-bye.